Happy Friday and welcome to NMH at 1. In this lunchtime news broadcast, we bring you the latest news, both local and international, ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports and economic news. Here are the news headlines. Outsourcing foreign contractors puts a dent in construction industry, says Federation General Manager. ELCIN missing millions, one-man tender board handpicked companies to do paid work. Half of the world on track to be overweight by 2035. I am Diana Master and this is NMH at 1. Midday news coming up right after this. The Capricorn Foundation launched the Vintage Business Box today in partnership with the MTC Dome Namibia to create shared value and support projects that stimulate economic growth and development. The foundation has committed 567,000 Namibian dollars to expand the Business Box initiative to Vintage. Remember to engage with these stories on our social media throughout the broadcast. Visual news coming up after the break.
Active Kids is an initiative under the MyZone brand that aims to provide exciting and easy activities and fun stories. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact zone@synergy.com.na. Active Kids, where we actively invest in your future.
Getting into today's visual news, General Manager of the Construction Industries Federation of Namibia, Barbel Kirchner, discussed the state of the construction sector in Namibia and highlighted that the main focus should be on Namibian contractors, alluding to outsourcing of foreign contractors, which has put a dent in the sector. She joined the Institute of Quantity Surveyors during a press conference with the President of the Africa Association of Quantity Surveyors. She spoke to Elizabeth Joseph.
Very, very important that we do get a construction council for our sector, essentially a statutory body that will police and monitor our industry. It's incredibly important. We have been looking at it since 2006. We have essentially been lobbying for that. The CIF is also merely a stakeholder. And we know it has been with the Cabinet Committee of Legislation last year, so we are very hopeful that it will be tabled to Parliament this year. But it's definitely incredibly important. You've asked me about also how the industry is doing. We are hopeful that it will be looking better this year. We've obviously had a few terrible years. First recession for a number of years, particularly our industry has been affected and COVID. So we're very hopeful that this year will look much, much better. But it's very, very important that we continue focusing on our local contractors. They need to be far more involved in the industry. We have a very large extent of foreign contractors currently on some of the major projects. Not just construction, i.e. civil work, but also building projects, and that is really unacceptable if we consider how it affects our industry.
In the case of ELCIN's missing millions, it has surfaced that the church's one-man tender board handpicked companies to do paid work. Namibian Sun gives us the full report in the newspaper review segment when we return.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toyvon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts and experts. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact agenda@synergy.com.na. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
You're watching NMH at 1. Let's get into our newspaper review segment. Namibian Sun revisits ELCIN Church's missing millions on its front page, reporting that in an investigation into the depth of financial mismanagement and lack of accountability at the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Namibia, it has been revealed that the church's one-man tender board handpicked companies to do paid work. The probe, which covered the period 26 May 2016 until 31 January 2019, found that over 300,000 Namibian dollars of the church's funds could not be accounted for due to a lack of supporting documents. This information is contained in an investigation report which Namibian Sun had sight of into an alleged missing 3.4 million Namibian dollars paid to the church by government in 2016. On the paper's page 3, the British High Commissioner to Namibia, Charles Moore, says Namibia should not feel compelled to follow the rest of the world in abandoning fossil fuels. Instead, it should continue working towards exploiting its recently discovered oil resources. Speaking on the agenda, which airs this Sunday, Moore lauded the country's efforts to explore investment opportunities in oil and gas and said the United Kingdom could learn from Namibia. On Republicane's front page, Hansie Slim, a sheep from Marienthal, has 3 special friends. They are the Ridgeback dogs, Shimtani King or Troy and Sally, and then there's the Jack Russell, Blue. These 4 and their human companion, Anore van der Merwe, are inseparable. Where one goes, the other goes. Natasha and Paul van der Merwe, Hansie Slim's owners, have found that the farm Laustein, about 60 kilometers outside Marienthal. On the paper's page 3, Rally for Democracy and Progress President Mike Kavikotora has tabled a motion in Parliament that calls for the culling of seals as he believes these animals are consuming fish that should be fed to Namibians. He argued that the lives of animals cannot override those of human beings. Dudu Murorua of the United Democratic Front supported the motion and called for proper research into seals' fish consumption and how this impacts the fish population. It was previously revealed that seals consume more pilchards than Namibians do in a year, he said. Now, according to the Allgemeine Zeitung's lead story, a search reveals that the Swiss travel company Hannibal Tours is held solely responsible for alleged violations of the rules, while it is only one of 2 companies that offered motorcycle tours in northwestern Namibia at about the same time. Meanwhile, the second American company, Freshline Motor Adventures Club, in particular, is said to have attracted unpleasant attention. Page 2 of the paper reports that Namibia continues to make strides in the field of green hydrogen with the development of a pilot project to create Africa's first net zero village in the Irongo region. The Daurus Green Hydrogen Consortium launched the Daurus Green Hydrogen Village in December and plans to officially kick off development of the pilot project this month. The move will enable the production of green hydrogen and ammonia as well as the utilization of their derivatives. Stay tuned. We continue with our newspaper review after the break.
Africa Good Morning is a current affairs program that brings you the latest from Southern Africa and beyond. News, economics, sport, weather, interviews, and so much more. For any advertising or news-related queries, contact agm@synergy.com.na. Africa Good Morning, bringing Africa to you.
Getting into the second half of our newspaper review, the Rundu Total service station owner, who has been accused of whipping his employees, has put himself on 14-day suspension along with the involved employees to allow for investigations. This is according to the Namibian, which further reports that Mike Dupreez announced his own suspension through his lawyer Richard Metcalf after videos of him whipping his employees went viral this week. The paper's page 3 reports that Mines and Energy Minister Tom Alwendo has warned that Namibians holding on to dormant exclusive prospecting licenses at the expense of capable foreign investors risks lowering Namibia's maximum earnings from the extractive sector. Alwendo said in the National Assembly yesterday that awarding exploration licenses to locals without the capacity to do exploration is tantamount to denying citizens the potential economic benefits. Now onto the New Era's front page. President Hage Geingob has told the Public Service Commission that the size of the country's civil service is too big and not sustainable. He made the remarks yesterday during a courtesy visit from members of the PSC and a technical team headed by the chairperson of the commission, Salman Jacobs. Geingob suggested an assessment to ensure that there is no duplication of duties. Now, in a separate story, there's no moral basis to give special recognition or benefits to former Southwest Africa Territorial Force and KUFUT members beyond what they enjoy in an independent Namibia, Defense Minister Frans Kapofi has said. He was responding to Popular Democratic Movement leader McHenry Vanani's plea for government to consider special options to fund demands by former SWATF and KUFUT members, as well as struggle kids, as their frustration could be used by terrorist groups to destabilize the country. On the paper's page 3, Emmanuel Noaseb, who appeared in the Walvis Bay Magistrates Court on Wednesday on a case of fraud, was out on bail for rape when he allegedly committed fraud. Noaseb was found guilty by the Windhoek Magistrates Court on 2 counts of rape and was in 2019 sentenced by Magistrate Gaynor Polton for raping a 10-year-old girl twice in Swakopmund in December 2011. According to court documents, the alleged incidents took place in Swakopmund, where Noaseb allegedly lured the minor and her brother to his house. Moving over to Market Watch, credit extended to the private sector from microlenders has outpaced credit uptake from commercial banks for the most of the post-pandemic period, Simona Storm said. Microlending credit extension averaged 4.6% for the first 3 quarters of 2022, whereas credit growth from commercial banks averaged 3.5% during the same time. From the demand side, there is an appetite for loans despite higher interest rates. However, the supply side might not be as forthcoming, Simona Storm pointed out. Now, the Environmental Investment Fund is rolling out a green concessional loan facility targeting young entrepreneurs wishing to undertake economically viable investments. More on this story in Economic News after the break.
AgriMonitor is jou weeklikse landboukundige program wat jou die jongste nuus in die landbouverwante bedryf en onderwerpe wat daaraan gekoppel is bring. Vir enige advertensie of nuusverwante navrae, kontak agrimonitor@synergy.com.na.
In today's economic news, the Environmental Investment Fund is rolling out a green concessional loan facility targeting young entrepreneurs wishing to undertake economically viable investments that integrate low carbon and climate adaptation instruments. In this regard, the facility aims to deploy 72 million Namibian dollars of such investments over the next 12 months, and it is expected to grow to 300 million Namibian dollars by the 2024-2025 financial year. According to the EIF, the green concessional lending product aims to provide sustainable capital for SMEs wanting to access green financial mechanisms. The fund notes that there is an increasing number of SMEs seeking to capitalize on green and sustainable strategies, incorporating them into their business strategy and aligning their funding mechanisms to sustainable development commitments. It says supporting SMEs to improve their environmental footprint can promote the transfer, application, and diffusion of cleaner production technology and methods to reduce hazardous waste, greenhouse gas emissions, and water pollutants, while also helping them become more competitive. Through this support, SMEs can also invest funds in such a way that the EIF makes a tangible and visible impact on the Namibian economy through the provision of concessional loans, guarantees, and equity to Namibian individuals and enterprises targeted mainly to communities predominantly in the rural and off-grid areas. Now let's take a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar has dropped down in value by 0.3%, while $1 will now cost 18 Namibian dollars and 18 cents. No changes are seen on the NSX as stock prices remain unchanged. First Rand Namibia stocks trading for 33 Namibian dollars and 57 cents. Overall index has closed 0.65% lower, while overall index and stock prices remain unchanged. All commodities are down with the exception of Brent crude oil, which has increased to 84 Namibian dollars and 59 cents. Now after the break, we get into our news from Africa. Stay tuned.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact b7@synergy.com.na.
Getting into news from Africa, the top U.S. commander in Africa has downplayed the recent joint naval exercise by Russia, China, and South Africa in the Indian Ocean. General Michael Langley said America offered much more valuable security partnerships to African countries, but would not force them to pick nations to cooperate militarily with. General Langley described the joint naval exercise as power projection by Russia and China. South Africa sent more than 400 troops to the exercise, while Russia sent a battleship armed with hypersonic missiles. South Africa has denied the training amounted to an endorsement of the war in Ukraine. General Langley also warned of the growing involvement of Russia's Wagner group in conflicts across Africa, saying they were a destabilizing force. Mercenaries from the group have fought in the Central African Republic, Libya, and Mali. Getting into our next story, Mozambique's ambassador to the United Nations, Pedro Comissário Afonso, has said that Africa, as a victim of historical injustice, deserved 2 permanent seats on the Security Council and 5 non-permanent seats. At a press conference to present Mozambique's agenda for the monthly presidency of the Security Council on Wednesday, Pedro Comissário Afonso addressed a possible reform of the Security Council, saying that steps are being taken in this direction, but that the issue is very complex. Under discussion for some 40 years, but always unsuccessful due to lack of consensus, reform and expansion of the Security Council, often considered obsolete, has been requested for several years, with emerging countries such as India, South Africa and Brazil wanting to join the 5 permanent members: the United States, France, the United Kingdom, Russia and China. In general, almost all UN countries see a need to reform the Security Council, but there's no agreement on how to do it, with different proposals on the table for years. Stick around. After the break, we get into our international news. In a rather concerning report, the World Obesity Federation is urging governments to act because it predicts that just over half of the global population will be classed as obese or overweight by 2035. Its new report says that more than 4 billion people will be affected, and rates are rising particularly quickly among children. It says almost all of the countries expected to see the greatest increases are low or middle income countries in Africa and Asia. Reasons include trends in dietary preferences towards more highly processed foods, greater levels of sedentary behavior, weaker policies to control food supply and marketing, and less well-resourced healthcare services to assist in weight management and health education. The Federation says the financial cost of obesity will amount to $4 trillion annually by 2035. More than 4 billion people will be affected, with the rates rising fastest among children, its report says. Low or middle income countries in Africa and Asia are expected to see the greatest rises. Stick around, because after the break we get into our local sports news.
Take a load off and tune into another episode of Brave Namibia, as we take a look at both ordinary and extraordinary Namibians. Brave Namibia is broadcasted on NTV Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and oneup2.com, as well as broadcasted on the following Facebook platforms on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Republican, Allgemeine Zeitung, Namibian Sun, and all Namibia Media Holdings pages. For more information, contact the Brave team at brave@synergy.com.na. Brave Namibia, for the ordinary and extraordinary Namibians.
Starting off our local sports news this afternoon, the start of round 2 of the Deb Marine Namibia Premier League should once again provide great entertainment to football lovers across the country. African stars, who have opened up a runway lead of 14 points, will be in action at the Unum Stadium this weekend, playing against Black Africa on Saturday, followed by Young African on Sunday. African Stars already racked up a 6-1 win against Black Africa during their first encounter. Second-placed Okahanja United has a weekend at Walvis Bay to look forward to, playing against Blue Waters on Saturday and against 11 Arrows on Sunday. The two leading clubs in Namibian cricket will once again meet in the final of the 50-over Premier League at the Wanderers Field on Saturday. Defending champions AHM Motors VHS Old Boys, led by Milan Kruger, finished second on the points table behind APS Imperial Samsung Wanderers under the captaincy of Nicholas Schultz. Both teams will be at near full strength after the return of the national team from their recent tour to Nepal and the United Arab Emirates. Moving over, rugby lovers are looking forward to seeing the Vintage Draft Velvetches take on the Currie Cup Premier Division champions, the Airlink Pumas, in a pre-season friendly at the Hage Geingob Stadium on Saturday. The Pumas have already won Wednesday's first friendly by 43 points to nil after the Namibian coaching staff had fielded two separate teams during each half in preparation of the upcoming Currie Cup First Division. The Pumas have named a strong selection for Saturday's clash, led by the lock Shane Kirkwood, as they build up to opening their Currie Cup defense against the Blue Bulls in Pretoria a week later. After the break, we take a look at international sports news.
We are back again with another
Generation
episode
C
of your
reaches
favorite show.
scholars, varsity and the youth generation through zone, varsity and school news. If you'd like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact Zone at synergy.com.na.
The Regional Review brings you news, views, and interviews from NMH correspondents from across the country. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact regional@synergy.com.na.
Now for the international sports news. The Emirates Lions have been forced into new changes ahead of their Vodacom United Rugby Championship match against the Vodacom Bulls at Loftus Versfeld on Saturday, with veteran flanker Jaco Kriel straining a hamstring this past week and prop Ruan Drea getting a 3-week suspension for his illegal clean-out against the Glasgow Warriors. The Lions have had to reshuffle their loose trio and add an extra reserve prop to the side. Ruan Venter moves to flank with Willem Alberts returning at lock in the reshuffle. Otherwise, the side is the same that beat Glasgow last weekend as the Lions look to build on the momentum they took from the victory. Travis Head and Manus Labuschagne held their nerve on a viciously turning pitch in the Indian city of Indore to guide Australia to a 9-wicket victory Friday and only their second test win in India since 2004. After Australia were thrashed in the first 2 tests inside 3 days, the series now stands at 2-1 to India with 1 match remaining. Head finished on 49 and Labuschagne was 28 not out as they eased Australia to a famous triumph. The victory secured Australia's place in the ICC World Test Championship final in June at the Oval. India will be sure of their place if they win the 4th test in Ahmedabad. Now onto some football news. Kylian Mbappe will lead Paris Saint-Germain into their meeting with Nantes on Saturday, looking for the goal that will put him out on his own as the club's all-time top scorer as they get ready for a season-defining trip to Bayern Munich. Mbappe's 2 strikes in PSG's 3-0 win at bitter rivals Marseille last weekend took him to 200 goals for the Qatar-owned club and allowed him to equal his former teammate Edinson Cavani as their record marksman. It would be a surprise if a player who has 4 goals in his last 2 games since returning from a thigh injury did not find the net against Nantes at the Parc des Princes to claim the record outright. If you're just joining us, this is NMH at 1 and we will get into the highlights from today's broadcast shortly. But first, here are a few events that you might want to add to your social calendar this weekend.
Hello NMH at 1 viewers, my name is Michael Kayunde. I'm back on your TV screens to give you guys a lowdown of the weekend gig guide. To start with, you can catch that as chill sessions tonight on Namibian Sun's Facebook page. That is at 1900 hours, and you can also catch a repeat of that show. That is tomorrow on NTV at 7:30 in the morning. That's the show where I get to take you in and around the country, showcasing you the latest music videos that are trending for the week. Moving along with other events that you can still catch this weekend, you can catch that as the Secret Sunrise Windhoek Morning Bliss taking place at the Village. That is on Saturday, tomorrow morning at 6:30 in the morning. You can get the tickets for $100, 100 Namibian dollars via web tickets. And another event that you can still expect today, this weekend, is the morning after brunch taking place at Taste. It's open from 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. You can also catch performances by the likes of Muhudi, The Yesterday, as well as DJ Tumi Mohammed. So those are some of the events that are taking place this weekend. I hope you guys go out there and have fun responsibly. From me, Michael Kayunde, until next time, it's bye-bye.
Kaap vol Hoop vertel stories van die Kaap en sy mense en uit die stories en ervarings deel ons mooi en unieke plekke om te sien en te ervaar. Kaap vol Hoop gaan waar die Kaapenaars gaan en gaan kuier waar die Kaapenaars kuier. Van die strande tot die wynlande en die sportvelde tot die restaurante. Ons kuier dalk sommer ook in iemand se kombuis vir daai familieresep van ouma. Ons eet die Kaapse tradisionele kosse en drink van sy beste wyne. Kaap vol Hoop gesels met die gewone Kaapenaar en soms ook met die meer bekendes, maar week vir week vertel ons elkeen sy eie unieke storie op sy unieke manier. Kaap vol Hoop kyk ook uit vir die Namibiërs in die Kaap. Sommige kom kuier net en sommige maak die Kaap hulle nuwe tuiste. Namibiërs in die Kaap gesels saam met Kaap vol Hoop en deel self die mooi, die uniek en lekker wat op hul pad kom. En alles is Kaap vol Hoop 'n program wat die mooi en die lag na vore wil bring en 'n program waar ons mekaar kan opbou en leer. Daar is hoop. Daar is 'n Kaap vol Hoop.
You're watching NMH at 1, and if you've just joined us, here are the news highlights from today's broadcast. Starting us off, top U.S. Commander in Africa, General Michael Langley, has downplayed the recent joint naval exercise by Russia, China, and South Africa in the Indian Ocean, saying America offered much more valuable security partnerships to African countries but would not force them to pick nations to cooperate militarily with. The World Obesity Federation is urging governments to act because it predicts that just over half of the global population will be classed as obese or overweight by 2035. Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with NMH at 1, catching up on the latest news in Africa, Namibia and the world, ranging from current affairs, economic news, sports and international headlines. That's it from us in studio. We wish you all a lovely weekend ahead.